Okay, last video for today. I promise. I hope you guys are hanging with me and going back and rewatching anything that doesn't make sense. Sad we couldn't do this in person, um, but it is what it is, right? Okay, so last thing that we're going to do is now use everything we've learned about, area of convergence and figuring out the angle of impact and figuring out, uh, the how to find the height to solve a few problems on our own. This is the example. We did that one, but now we're going to go on to we're going to actually look at some blood spatter patterns and we're going to do all the steps. Okay, so starting on the next page in your book, okay, there's 3 problems you can see. Problem 1, problem 2, problem 3. We're going to do problem 1 and then you're going to do problem 2 and 3 on your own to see if you can handle it. Okay, so we've worked plenty of problems together. If you've tried to skip the videos and do it on your own, more power to you, but don't message me saying you don't know how to do it if you haven't watched the videos. Okay, so problem number 1. We're going to use everything that I've talked about today. It says refer to the blood spatter sketch 1, which is this. Okay, sketch 1. Okay, from these drops of blood, determine the area of origin by completing the following steps. Record your answers in the data table. Okay, there is a data table in your book over here, but when you're done with this lesson, you're going to find a Google Doc that has the data table already, and all the answers for 1 are already going to be filled in. And you're just going to have to fill in 2 and 3. So you don't need to write them here as we calculate them. Just write them in your notes. And then once you pull up the Google Doc, you'll see that these numbers I already filled them in, and you just have to do the last 2 rows. Okay, so don't worry about that part. Okay, so the first thing says determine the direction the blood was traveling. Again, we're going to use a pencil and try to draw pretty lightly in our book so we can go back and erase it later. So just remember we talked about how the blood hits here and then it keeps going and it leaves a tail telling me the direction it was going. So I know the blood was going this way, and this way. So possibly this is blood that came out from, like, somebody was shot and the blood, came out from them and spattered in different directions. It could have been from the entrance wound and this spattered back on the person who was shooting him, or this could be coming from an exit wound and this blood spattered out on the wall behind the person. So there's some different scenarios that this spatter could represent. Sorry, I'm getting tired. Anyway, so the first thing we want to do is we're going to draw some lines of convergence on these 3 drops and see if we can find that little small circle that's the area of convergence. So just like I was showing you earlier, you're going to get out a ruler or some kind of straight edge. Got my little handy dandy ruler. And you're going to draw a line. I like to try to find the middle of the end of the drop first and then line up my ruler with that and the tip up here. Okay, can y'all see that? Maybe I should zoom in a little bit. Okay. Oops, I'm not lined up correctly. I want to try to make 2 dots here and then line up my ruler along those 2 dots. Depends on how fat your pencil is. So I'm going to lightly draw a line here. Okay, you can kind of see my line. And I'm going to do the same here. I'm going to make a dot here and a dot there and then try to connect it with my ruler. And then make a nice little line there, kind of light. And then last thing, a dot here in the middle and a dot here. Connect it with my ruler. Oops, let's make it long. And oops, my dots are off. So you've got to be kind of careful. Okay, so now I have there's a little bit of a triangle here in the middle, barely. So I'm going to draw a little circle, as small as possible, to cover the area of convergence, or to determine the area of convergence, okay? It's a small circle around where all the lines intersect, okay? So then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to use a scale. Now, they're going to give you a scale. This is new. We haven't done this yet. Okay, each problem, this is important, each problem gives a different scale. Do not use the scale for every problem or you will get them wrong. You need to pay attention. It's usually in step 5 of all the instructions for each one of these. It says use the scale. So we're going to use a scale of 1 millimeter to 0.2 feet. Okay, and we're going to convert the distance in millimeters to feet. But the first thing I have to do is measure from the middle of this drop, okay, the middle of the area of convergence to the edge of one of these drops. And I'm trying to remember which one they used. Hang with me. Okay, I'm going to measure and just see what I come up with. They told us it was 17 millimeters in my teacher edition, so I was trying to figure out, okay, if it's 17 millimeters, which blood drop did they measure? Because there's 3 blood drops here, and you're going to get a different measurement on each one. And again, as I mentioned in a previous video, if I was actually doing this at a crime scene, I would measure all 3 and come up with a height for all 3. Or come up with the area of origin for all 3 and then average it out. But we're just going to pick one today to do your calculations. So my answer key tells me to use 17 millimeters. So I'm like, which one of these? You got to have a ruler for this. Which one of these was 17 millimeters? So this one from here to here, that's like 14. So I don't think that. I think it was this one. To go from here, that's 2 here. This would be 2 or 20 millimeters. 17 would be about right here. So that's pretty close for my measurements. Basically, what you guys need to do is try to measure it, and then I'm actually going to give you the millimeters to use. So we're all using the same millimeters. But this should be about 17 millimeters. It's just going to be a little bit off based on like how you drew your line, how thick your pencil was, and what dot you picked in the middle. So we're going to just go with 17 millimeters, but we need to use feet because we want our ultimate answer to be how many feet off the ground, not how many millimeters off the ground. So this is where you get to bring back everything you know about conversion factors in math and convert 17 millimeters to feet. Yay! Okay, but they gave us the conversion factor. So you guys might do this differently. Y'all do this the way it works best for you. I know as a math teacher, I show a bunch of different ways and then whatever works best for you. But I know they have told me in the book that my factor is, what was it again? It was 1 millimeter is equivalent to 0.2 feet. Okay, right? That's the ratio or the conversion factor I want to use here. So when I teach this in class and with my littles, which they think they're big because they're 6th graders, there's a couple different ways to do it. So however you like to do it. I like to, first of all, set up a ratio is one thing you can do. 2 feet is to 1 millimeter as 17 millimeters. Ooh, where'd I get 17 millimeters from? Remember I told you that this is 17 millimeters. Just go with the distance that I gave you because we all want to use the same numbers. So I know this is the way I teach my littles to go from 1 millimeter here, that's times 17. So to go here, it's also times 17, which gives me 3.4 feet because I know how to do equivalent ratios. Or you could do like a good old-fashioned conversion factor where you take your 17 millimeters and you multiply it by a ratio of 1 millimeter to 0.2 feet and cancel out your millimeters and just multiply 17 times 0.2. And again, you will come up with 3.4 feet. Okay, so however you do conversions, you've got to convert your 17 millimeters to feet using this conversion factor. Okay, so once I have that now, I think I have almost everything I need to do this formula. Remember this lovely formula? Oh, wait. I don't have my area, I don't have my angle of impact. So that's what I got to do next. So the next thing that it's going to tell you to do, and again, you're just following along the instructions. Okay, what have we done so far? So it's getting crowded on my dining room table.